All right, hey Vikings fans, welcome into another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
And I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer, talking about the Vikings.
Yep, and tonight the beer we had was a great citrusy beer from Big Grove Brewery, which I think we both liked quite a bit.
Yeah, very delicious. We took some time, though, to look back on some of the more heartbreaking moments in Vikings history.
Yeah, that was kind of weirdly fun. Another fun thing we did is that we played the "Hey, remember this Viking" game, which guys always end up playing when we're drinking beers and hanging out. So that brought back some really good memories too.
That was definitely more fun than all the sad seasons that weren't so good. But what wasn't sad was this beer. It was very good, and if you want to know what beer it is, make sure you check out the episode.
Yep.
And grab your favorite beverage and join us.
Skol.
Skol. We're going to take a quick minute to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Big Top Ventures. If you are looking to take an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, we're going to put their email right down here at the bottom of the screen. It's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Send them an email. Let them know when you're looking to go on a trip and what you might be looking to do, and they will hook you up with the best possible rate. So shout out to Big Top Ventures for sponsoring the episode.
They're great.
Yes, they are.
I guarantee you still haven't booked or gone. I guarantee it.
You can look into the future and predict that.
I guarantee it. I know for sure.
Well, we'll have to see if that's true or not.
Yeah. Another thing I know for sure is that we both very much enjoy beer.
Yes, we do.
And Big Grove, a while back, they gave us quite a few, a handful of 6-packs of beers.
Yep.
And so we've been sifting through those as episodes go on. And this one I have never had before. Have you ever had this one before?
I've had the Citrus Surfer brand, but I haven't had this particular one, which is Citrus Surfer Lime.
Okay.
So I have not had it.
So there's a couple, right? I mean, there's obviously
just regular Citrus Surfer, which I think we had when we live streamed a game last season, I think.
You might remember better than I.
I think we did. Okay. Yeah. We've definitely had regular old Citrus Surfer at least once on the show in some capacity.
And then this is the lime one. Do you know if there can only be a couple, right?
I think there's a few other variations. I just don't remember what it is off the top of my head. We could Google it quick.
Yeah. Okay. Well, either way, I'm super excited to try this one. Again, thank you, Big Grove, for providing some of the beer for us in our recent episodes. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this is our final one of what they've provided, which is kind of bittersweet. But this one, this seems like definitely the classic, like, you could drink this all day, out on the boat, out on the lake, just hanging out. And I say that because it's 4.8% alcohol by volume, which always drink responsibly, but 4.8 is relatively low, which can be advantageous if you're looking to just hang out and be outside or just enjoy the day and throw a handful back without really having to worry too much about getting too out there or getting too much of a headache the next day. 4.8 is pretty good. So I'm excited to try this one.
Let's crack these open. Yeah. While we're doing that, I did look it up. So there is the original Citrus Surfer. Then there's this one, Citrus Surfer Lime. And then they put out a multi-pack. And the other two flavors were exclusive to the multi-pack. So you had to buy the multi-pack in stores, or I'm assuming you could get them on draft at the brewery. But they had a mango, Citrus Surfer Mango, and Citrus Surfer Lemon Berry.
Ooh.
So,
okay, that sounds good. All right, man. I really enjoy citrusy. Obviously, I'm an IPA guy, and that's very citrusy, forward a lot of times. So I'm really very much looking forward to this. This one,
it's kind of hazy.
It's got a nice small amount of haze to it. It's definitely an IPA. You're not going to be able to really see through it, but it's not like dark. Good, decent head retention. So it's not going to be like a sour masquerading as an IPA. I don't know. It looks really good, and I'm ready to go for it.
Skol.
Skol.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh yeah, that's really nice. That's it's a very refreshing, light lime flavor. You get that little bit of hoppiness, but
It's got a little tartness too of the lime, but not so overpowering.
Yeah, none of the flavors are crazy, heavy, overpowering. Like, I feel like refreshing is a really good word for this.
Yeah, I would definitely have a few of these on a hot summer day.
Oh, for sure. If you like lime, this is definitely a solid beer for you. It kind of reminds me of like a way better version of some of those like Bud Light Lime, like some of those like summer type, seasonal lagers that they put out there. Some of the breweries put out there. Obviously, this is way better. I would rather have this than a Bud Light Lime, and some people are probably gasping, clutching their pearls at that. But yeah, this is delicious.
This is great. I actually had, we went to a Mexican restaurant for dinner tonight. And I usually get a Corona with lime, and those are good. And I like, I don't know, just a Corona with lime.
Hard to beat. Yeah, pretty
tacos
solid.
Or a burrito or whatever you're having for Mexican food. It's just a staple for me. I like it. But I would have one of these if it were available.
Yeah.
With my Mexican food. This is good.
Yeah. For someone who has mentioned a few times on the Skol Hop how much you enjoy Mexican food and
you're going to make fun of me for how much I don't like spicy food, aren't you?
No, not at all.
Oh.
I was going to kind of make fun of you, but I was going to mostly call you out for not, participating with show sponsor Big Top Ventures and going to a Mexican all-inclusive. You'd enjoy it, man. You'd really enjoy it.
I know I would, and I will.
But until you do, I guess this is going to have to do. This will have to bring you as close to Mexico as you can get. And it's crazy because it doesn't even claim to be like a Mexican-style beer. It's an IPA.
It's an Iowa beer. Because that's all we drink on the Skol Hop.
Have we? We've never broken that rule, have we?
We've always had Iowa beer on an episode. We had that one beer from Minnesota, I think, because it was like just one before I die.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't it?
I think the Surly. Was it Surly?
Yeah.
Yep.
But we had that first, and then we had an Iowa beer after that.
Yeah.
We've also had some. What is this? I forget their name. We should know their name.
I don't think it's on there. It's
in Stillwater, Minnesota. I know that. They're Grape Ape. What is that called?
Lift Bridge Brewing. We did have their Grape Ape. Again, that one wasn't the episode beer.
Yeah, it wasn't.
The Grape Ape isn't really a beer. It was like a malt beverage.
Yeah, it was more like alcoholic grape soda.
Yeah, that wasn't bad, but
it was good.
Yeah, but yes, I don't think we've ever actually truly broken the rule of Iowa.
We've not gone a single episode without having an Iowa beer of some sort on the episode.
Yeah, we've only doubled up a couple of times.
Handful of times. Yeah. Maybe once or twice.
Yeah. But yeah, so all that to say, Big Grove's Citrus Surfer Lime, pretty solid. And if you like lime, go for it. It's delicious. Thank you, Big Grove, again.
Well, we're going to talk today about kind of whatever comes to mind. Mm-hmm. But we had this idea, I don't know, a while ago now. We had it on an outline for an episode, and we didn't have time to get to it. But I remember typing these things out, and I might just read them all.
Yeah.
And explain the context, and then we'll just go, and we'll see where the wind takes us. I think it was the week after the 2024-25 season ended. Mm-hmm. The Vikings lost in the playoffs to the Rams, ending their 24-25 season. And we, of course, had an episode right after that game and talked about all of the stuff. And I penned these words at the end of our outline, mostly just out of the sheer heartbreak of being a Vikings fan for life. Mm-hmm. So I titled the segment, "The Pain and Agony of Being a Vikings Fan." And I had some sub-points here. And I thought, at that point, we could do this, and we decided to scrap it, and now here we are doing it.
Here it is.
Down the road. But we could look back at all of the great seasons that have gone to waste, all of the fruitless playoff seasons And fruitless is the only word to describe it, because the Vikings have never actually won the big game.
Yep.
And they haven't even been to the Super Bowl in our lifetime.
Nope.
So every playoff appearance we've experienced has been fruitless. It's been short-ended, like it was this last year. And then all of the great players to pass through. There have been a lot of phenomenal football players to wear that uniform. And a lot of them, the really, really good ones, have gone on to be successful elsewhere, in addition to being really great in Minnesota.
But some of them, because they spent a lot of their careers with the Vikings, even as great as they were, never got to the promised land, never won a Super Bowl. So, yeah, this is just I don't know, it's like Paul Allen would say, we're going to sit on the emotional Davenport of love and kind of have a therapy session and just talk back all of the heartbreaking moments that have been bestowed upon us by this great team that loves to just punish us.
Yes. Where should we start?
Oh man, I think we should go with some of the biggest disappointing seasons. And maybe that's not the right word to say it. The biggest seasons that broke our hearts the most. Maybe that's a better way to say it. So when you think of biggest heartbreak as a Vikings fan, what season arc is the first one that you personally, Evan, think of?
1998.
Yeah.
There can't be a different answer than that. I mean, you're talking a 15-1 football team, a team that lost one game all of the regular season. They were dominant. I'm looking at the stats on Pro Football Reference right now. The Vikings had the highest point differential of any team in franchise history, with a positive 260 point differential. They were electric on offense, and they were lights out on defense. Like it was the perfect team. It was arguably the best team the Vikings have ever fielded, and they proved as much with their 15-1 record. And the heartbreak of that missed field goal and then the loss in overtime to the Falcons in that NFC Championship game was crushing.
Yeah.
And that was like the beginning of our journey as Vikings fans.
So
we were kids.
Here's how crushing it is. You can speak to your own personal experience with that season, with that, loss to the Falcons in the NFC Championship game, because you probably watched some or all of that season as a then Minnesota kid, born and raised in Minnesota, still living there at the time, and your family was indoctrinating you into this,
100%.
this purple fandom. My personal experience, this should tell you how heartbreaking that 1998 season is. That was 3 to 4 years before I became a Vikings fan. I didn't really wake up as a fan of sports at all until like 2001, 2002. I still, to this day, look at that season, and maybe this is a little preposterous because I didn't watch it. I didn't really realize it was going on. But as of now, when I think about that season, it breaks my heart. I think about the replays of some of the games that I've watched back on YouTube and stuff, and just knowing, they might be dominating this game, but just a few months later.
Well, I mean, that was Randy Moss's rookie year.
Yeah.
Randall Cunningham was, I think, at the top of his game. Chris Carter was still playing at an elite level.
Yeah.
And then you had this defensive front that was just a nightmare for opposing offenses. It was a lights out team. The Randy Moss Thanksgiving game.
Yeah, what is it? 363 or 163 and 3.
3 catches, 163 yards, and 3 touchdowns. It was absolutely insane. And that was what the Vikings did to teams everywhere. It was nuts. So anyways, that has to be at the top of the list for me. I think a close second, heartbreaking seasons, and I think you'll agree with me on this because we were together and we watched the last game of this season together. Yep. It was the 2009 season. It was the Bounty Gate game against the Saints. NFC Championship game. Brett Favre comes to the Vikings after this tumultuous exit from Green Bay, has a few awkward years in New York before.
I think just one.
Or maybe it was just one, but he was accused of, being kind of an idiot with a female staff member or something. I don't know. And
we don't need to deep dive into that.
No, but he comes to Minnesota, and I remember like the first couple of games of that season were just kind of like, okay, this might work.
Yeah.
And then it was that San Francisco game.
Specifically the one pass.
The Hail Mary at the end of the game to Greg Lewis. It was phenomenal.
I still can't think about that Favre to Lewis play without smiling. It's
Paul Allen.
It's let's cut Greg Lewis, and Paul Allen. If you're a Vikings fan and you don't like Paul Allen, then you're not a Vikings fan. But yes, that one game really turned everybody, and everybody fell in love with it. And that's when I think the only people that weren't okay with Favre after that game, they were just haters, and they hate being Vikings fans anyways. And then Favre threw across his body instead of running 5 yards to get a first down and attempt a field goal to go to the Super Bowl.
But let's be realistic here. I mean, he had to have been slightly outside of his mind at that point. He had been bruised and battered and probably didn't know which direction was up at that point in the game.
Yeah.
Because of the beating he took, because players on the other team were being paid a bounty for his head.
Yeah. And not just him, but like every other player, every Viking on the field. And then you have things like, I know on KFan, Meat Sauce likes to razz Ben Lieber about it all the time, but there was a defensive pass interference or holding or something that Ben Lieber had late in the game that gave the Saints a big advantage. There was, I think Adrian Peterson fumbled it a few times. It was just that game, there were so many mishaps, and they go into overtime
to be in it at
to
the end
still
of the game.
have a chance. Yeah, it was amazing in and of itself. And I remember thinking at the time, like, Brett Favre, like, after they lost, and I think somebody tweeted out pictures of his ankle and how they were like, it looked like it was just a broken mess, and that he wasn't ever going to walk again. I remember thinking like, well, at least, I mean, there's no way they could have beat the Colts. But everything I hear from like players and coaches and everybody when they talk about it, like even with Brett being beat up after that game, like if they had found a way to win, they still would have been way favored over the Colts, which I don't know if it's hearsay at this point, but yeah. And to talk about Paul Allen, I just hear those. I'll never not hear him say, "This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl."
That's the way it would have been in the '98 season, though, too. Like I forget who the Falcons ended up playing in the Super Bowl that year.
The Broncos. It was always second straight Super Bowl to finish off his career.
But I think the Vikings would have been heavily favored in that Super Bowl too, had they made it there.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking at the time that '98 Vikings team was the greatest show on turf before the greatest show on turf.
Like, they were the predecessors to the Rams of Kurt Warner days.
I think they were statistically the greatest, like football, definitely the greatest offense in NFL history. So yeah, they absolutely, if not for a missed kick, they would have gone on to and probably won the Super Bowl in '98. Now, again, that's all hearsay. We're not saying, oh, the Vikings should have been Super Bowl champs. Like, it happened the way it happened. But, man, I will say, though, and I've said it on this show before, as big of a fan of this team as I am now, I was 10 times bigger of a fan before the kickoff of that Saints game, that NFC Championship game in 2009. And that game legitimately stole my childhood joy of being a football fan. And now I still love the team. I still love football. I watch the UFL right now. Like, that's how much of a football fan I am. But that definitely stole some of the joy from me.
I watched it. It was like a ghost leaving your body.
Yeah.
And we were watching it in the basement of our college dorm.
You were probably making fun of me at some point. Like, oh, it's just a game, man.
No,
like,
I was just sitting there looking at your now wife, and she's like, is he going to be okay? And I'm like, it might take a few days, but he'll be all right.
Decades. It might take a few decades. I'm still not fully over that game. But it did it was the first time I was ever like, I can't feel like this about a football team who's never heard my name and will never care that I exist. Like, I can't put that much of myself into just a group of guys playing a child's game. And yeah, I've bounced back a little bit, but I will never be as big of a fan of anything as I was before that game started.
I might remind you that you do have a podcast where all we talk about is the Vikings.
Like I said, I bounced back a little bit, and my wife will attest. There were many years that you just don't talk to Austin if the Vikings lost that day. Just let him be. And after that game, and a few more years after that, I mean, I'm not happy if the Vikings lose, but I might be like super pissed off for like 5 to 10 minutes. And then, you know what? Like, I'm an adult. Like my life will go on. I have a family, like I usually get over it pretty quick. And yeah, except maybe the loss to the Rams in the 24-25 season. That one kind of sucked too, but not nearly as much as 09.
I think something that it's not nearly comparable to the 98 season or the 09 season, but in recent years, the Vikings in the last two of the last 3 seasons, O'Connell's first season and then this last season, the Vikings have looked really, really good. And I don't know really what to attribute it to. Is it just sheer luck? Was it actual, was it the coaching? Was it the roster that they had? What was it? But I mean, 2022, 13-4, win the division, and then you lose in the wild card round. And then this past season, 24 season, 14-3 with a $10 million quarterback who was a backup everywhere else, just came out and lit it up, and they could not figure out how to finish that last stretch of games, losing the last 3 games, right? Or 2 games?
Well, yeah, the Vikings, they lost the last 2 regular season games in 24 and then the playoff game. So the last 3 games they played, they lost.
3 game total.
This team has a unique way of breaking our hearts sometimes. Although I will say it's because of, a 13-win season and a 14-win season, 2 out of Kevin O'Connell's first 3 seasons. It's because of those that I have some high hopes for the team in the future. Everything seems to have been good moves and upgrades and should be good on paper. We'll see how they go here in the future. Another season that I look back on and it breaks my heart and it stole a little bit more of that joy of the team from me was 2017. Specifically after in the NFC Championship game, after the Vikings, Minneapolis Miracle to win the division game against the Saints of all teams, then to go into Philly and on the first drive march down the field and score a touchdown. I probably would have told you in that moment, they're gonna do it. They're gonna win the Super Bowl. Yep. The Eagles are on their second string quarterback. It's in Philly, but this team is amazing. They're the team of destiny. Did you not just see the Minneapolis Miracle 7 days ago?
And ever since that game, do you know what happens to me when the Vikings march down the field and score a touchdown to start the game? I think, well, that's the only touchdown they're going to score today. That's my thought immediately. That's what this team has done to us.
Yeah, I have said recently on the show, as much as we bicker and complain about how much this team loves to beat us down and hate on us, and nobody's had it worse than Vikings fans, I really think there's some other teams in the NFL that have that claim above Vikings fans, like Jets fans. Like I said not terribly long ago, they've been in a playoff drought since the 2009 season.
Yeah, since we were in high school.
Yeah, like I feel for Jets fans sometimes.
Browns fans too.
Yeah, Browns fans. Although I don't feel bad for that team because they have decided to go with Deshaun Watson. They're finally getting over that. But if you choose to go for that, like, you deserve to just be awful forever. Like, I hope they never do anything good ever again. But yeah, and that's not to say the Vikings are actually good. Like, they do love to break our hearts. Do you have any thoughts of that 2017 season?
Oh, the 17 season was fun to watch. obviously the Minneapolis Miracle is the cherry on top of that season. I think that's the most reactive I've ever been in a game. Like, I lost my mind. My oldest daughter was, I don't know, she's probably 1.5 or 2 at that point. She was very young, and I think she had gone to bed, and I didn't care that she was sleeping upstairs. I screamed at the top of my lungs. I ran 15 laps around my basement, and then I was watching TV, and I was kind of just trying to gather myself. And I looked at my wife and I said, I need to go for a walk. And I went outside and I literally walked a whole block. I think it was a good half mile around my neighborhood. I was like, I just need to go outside and breathe for a minute. I just need to kind of come down from this chaotic moment. So all of that to say, the 2017 season was great. But yeah, like you said, to go to Philly, to experience what they did there, it's just another one on the pile of disappointing seasons. It's man, we were 13-3, and we won this playoff game in miraculous fashion. It was awesome. My parents were actually at that game.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So that's a fun little family memory for us too. But it's all for naught because
it doesn't matter.
They didn't go on to win the next one, and that's what matters. You got to win the next one.
Yep.
So
I do think it kind of sucks that as 30-something-year-old Vikings fans, our pinnacle of Vikings fanhood, the peak of our fanhood, is a win in the divisional round of the playoffs, and a miracle win in the divisional round of the playoffs. I'm super glad that we have it and that we witnessed it, and I wish we were, with your parents there in Minnesota, because that would just be even that much better. But yeah, someday a Super Bowl win will overtake that, hopefully. But it's kind of crazy that a divisional play is our peak as Vikings fans. That 2017 season, if you remember, the first game, Sam Bradford came out and looked like the
MVP.
Next coming of Tom Brady at his peak. That game against the Saints to start off the season, Bradford he was 27 of 32 for 346 yards and 3 touchdowns. And on top of that, Dalvin Cook had 127 yards rushing, no touchdowns. Adam Thielen had a big game, 9 catches for 157 yards. Stephon Diggs himself had 2 touchdowns and 93 yards receiving. But Sam Bradford in that game looked like he was MVP. Like you said, he looked like he was the greatest quarterback to ever set foot on grass. And then, he had some knee soreness the next day, and he didn't play the rest of the year because he did something to his knee there. And that's why when J.J. McCarthy all of a sudden had knee soreness after a preseason game where he looked pretty decent, my first thought was, well, great, here's Sam Bradford all over again. Hopefully JJ will come back like Sam Bradford didn't. But to go from having an amazing game, we're going to win the Super Bowl after week 1, and then a few days later, who's our backup quarterback? They're going to win 2 games with Case Keenum. And then they went on to win 12 more with Keenum. That season was such a free roll. And then the miracle happened. It was the team of destiny. And then the Eagles game, 38-7. And
that was probably the peak of Zimmer's coaching career.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think he coached a better team. Maybe what we could do, because I'm seeing some names just in the top players list here on Pro Football Reference. Maybe we just play that age-old game where a bunch of dudes just sit around, drink beer, remember? Just say random names. I'll start. Ready?
Yeah.
Everson Griffin.
Oh man, Everson Griffin. talk about a guy who was a total wild card on the field. Most of the time, he was just ripping people's heads off. He was amazing to watch, so much fun. Every single game, he was good for one offsides penalty.
He just got a little too
at least one. It seemed like, and then it would happen, and you go to Twitter, and everybody be like, "Oh yeah, that's his one for the game." Yeah, it was bound to happen sometime. Like, it's crazy how often that happened. But just a really fun Viking to watch. And then, at the end of his Vikings career, kind of had some mental heartbreaking situation.
Issues, yeah.
I think I did see somebody tweet out in Vikings Twitter that they had actually run into Everson Griffin out in public and
really
said hi and hey, I'm a Vikings fan, I was a huge fan, and it seems like as of now he's doing okay. Seems like he's got some good support system around him and life's going pretty decent for him. But yeah, that really scary end to his football career, but he was a fun Viking to watch for a while.
Who's your random Viking player that you're going to throw out there?
Oh man. All right.
Just pick one. It doesn't matter. We can keep going. We can riff on this for an hour if we want.
Okay. How about your thoughts on... Oh, man. Greg Jennings.
Greg Jennings, former Packer.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have a career in broadcasting now?
I think he's dabbled. I don't know for sure. I don't know enough about it to say yes or no, but I think he's definitely dabbled.
No, he was fun to watch. What seasons was he in Minnesota again? He was there, looks like 13 and 14.
Yeah, maybe? Not very long. I remember that the Vikings, they tried to sign Mike Wallace. Mm-hmm. And then they had some competition with the Dolphins for Mike Wallace, so then they turned and went with former Packer Greg Jennings. We were actually hanging out the night Greg Jennings got announced as a Viking.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you remember that.
I don't.
Us and our wives, we were catching up on How I Met Your Mother at your house in Cedar Falls.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know why I remember that, but yeah, that was pretty cool.
Must have been had to have been our first house.
This was pre then. That was the
apartment?
No, the house.
The college house?
I was married. I don't think you were married yet. Yeah, that's how early it was. Yeah.
All right. So the college house, but yeah, before. I see. Yeah. Well, it had to have been because we got married in 2013. So.
But yeah, Greg Jennings.
Jennings.
He was fun. I don't remember too many crazy plays watching him, but
he led the team in receiving for the 2 years he was there. He was a good receiver. I think he was the unfortunate product of the coaching change because he straddled the seasons where Frazier left and then Zimmer came in, and just naturally you're not going to be on very good teams typically when a coach gets fired. That's usually because they had a bad season, and then typically a coach doesn't just come in and find success right away. Yep. And Zimmer did not. His first season they went 7-9. So
And you say he led the team in receiving. 2013 he had 804 yards, and 2014 he had 742 yards. So that team was not lighting up the league in 13 and 14. I think in 2013 didn't they go 3-13?
No, they were 5-10.
Oh, okay.
But Matt Castle was the quarterback of that team, and Matt Castle came in because Christian Ponder turned out to be not the answer like everybody thought he would in the first round.
Matt Castle was on, I don't know if it was Pardon My Take or one of the popular football podcasts, and they asked him "What do you have any regrets in your career?" And I guess he had the chance at the end of his Vikings career to stay with the Vikings or the trade. I think he got traded to Buffalo. And he said he regretted going forward with the trade to Buffalo because he did it at the time because he still wanted an opportunity to start. But if he had stayed, he would have been Teddy Bridgewater backup. Yeah. And he says, or in that podcast, not terribly long ago, he said, I kind of wish I would have stayed and been the backup in Minnesota.
Because then Teddy's knee exploded and he might have been the starter.
Maybe.
So, but I think for Greg Jennings, the other thing is you were playing with Matt Castle in your first season, and then you were playing with rookie Teddy Bridgewater your second year in Minnesota. And so there's just a lot of adjusting to do when you're a veteran receiver and you are very good at your craft. I think he was known as a pretty good route runner, if I remember right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think you had to be if you were catching balls from Aaron Rodgers. And I think, didn't he play with Brett Favre too? Wasn't he?
I believe he did. He caught he caught one of Favre or Rodgers' like milestone touchdown passes, like 250th or something like that. It was, at the time I remember watching it and being like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
Anyways, I think all of that to say, like, when you're playing with elite level quarterbacks like Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, you just get used to the ball being in certain places and you get used to running routes the way you do. And when you're working with, we'll say Teddy Bridgewater, for example, who's a rookie and just trying to figure it out, you know, that's just not going to happen the way that it did when he was in Green Bay. And nothing against Matt Castle or Teddy Bridgewater. I think they were great players. It's unfortunate what happened to Teddy Bridgewater, but anywho, yeah, Greg Jennings, great guy.
Yeah.
And I wish he could have been a Viking for his whole career. That would have been more fun.
Yeah. He might argue. I think he probably enjoys his Green Bay years.
I think anybody that plays in Green Bay enjoys it. Like,
yeah,
I don't know that there's anybody
well,
that...
it's funny that you say that, because I'm pretty sure it was him that when he was on the Vikings, he was controversially quoted as saying something to the tune of, they kind of brainwash you in Green Bay to like it there. And he got, I don't remember the exact quote, but he was kind of talking negative about...
Well, I think that's like the history of Packers football, is because there's the smallest market team in the country. You have to do something to keep players there, and they've not only brainwashed the players that have come through there, but they've brainwashed an entire state and then some. There are people who've never set foot in the state of Wisconsin who are Packers fans
for some reason.
It sickens me.
That's ridiculous. All right, can you think of another great player from Vikings history?
Let's go back to, how about the Williams Wall?
Oh yeah,
Pat and Kevin Williams.
I love that you said both of them.
Well, I saw one of their names here, and I'm like, well, you can't mention one without the other.
Yeah, so Kevin Williams, I think, was the overall better of the two.
Yes.
But them together, they really were a wall. I think the Vikings, at one point in their stretch as Vikings, the team went something like 100+ games without allowing a 100-yard rusher, which I don't know if that was the record at the time or if it was creeping up to the record, but I remember it being very notable that you could not run against the Vikings, mostly because of those behemoths, those monsters of Hall of Fame level players, I'll say it, right in the middle. You couldn't run against it. The only issue with that is, for many of those years, the Vikings didn't have the defensive backfield to back up their rushing defense. So teams very quickly figured out, like, okay, we're not running against them, but darn it, we can throw for 1,000 yards a game against the Vikings, because, you know, all their talent is up front, and they've got guys like, you know, Cedric Griffin in the backfield, who Cedric Griffin was decent, but I mean, he's not going to be remembered as the best ever.
Right.
Yeah, the Williams Wall. I also kind of remember they both got in trouble for the Star Caps issue. It was like an early performance enhancing drug. And I don't know. I was kind of young when that all came out, so I don't know the exact details of all of that. But it took a few years, but eventually both of them ended up serving, I think, 4-game suspensions. And yeah, anybody, whether you're trying to or not, you could get flagged for some supplements that you're putting in your body. And yeah, that was a good lesson for probably a lot of people to learn through the Williams Wall. But yeah, really fun players to watch.
The good thing about them is they had Jared Allen at some point, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you had 3 ferocious defensive linemen staring you down every play. The Williams Wall and Jared Allen, who played on the other side. I don't even remember.
For a while, it was Ray Edwards.
Oh, sure.
A guy that would eventually go on to have a very short boxing career or MMA career. And then also for a while, it was Brian Robinson. But yeah,
Brian Robinson was really good. Actually.
Yeah, solid Viking, kind of a Greenway level Viking. But Jared Allen, that's a whole nother name in itself, and that's kind of a heartbreaking name because he had a really fast and explosive start to his career with KC. Led the league in sacks his last year in Kansas City, and then through some personal issues that he had to deal with, I think mostly just alcohol. He had to get over some demons with that. That also kind of ran him out of town in KC. But the Vikings traded for him. Traded like a first and like a couple threes, something, a pretty large trade package to KC to get him. And all he did was become one of the best Vikings of all time. I think he tied or almost broke the single season sack record one year, 2011 or something.
2011, he had 22 sacks, and I think the record's 22 and a half.
Yeah.
I think he was a half a sack away.
Just a monster. He was one that it felt like you couldn't go to a game and look in any direction without seeing 1,000 Jared Allen jerseys. Maybe partially because of his number, which was pretty awesome. Man, he was so much fun, and the team loved putting him out there. He was definitely a fan favorite, a franchise favorite, and now a Hall of Famer, which is pretty cool. I say he's kind of bittersweet because of all of the Vikings throughout Vikings history that probably deserved a Super Bowl ring, I'd say he's definitely up there. Him, Randy Moss, Adrian Peterson, all the greats over the years that definitely deserved a ring before their career, and none of them ever got it. Jared Allen, I think his last game in the NFL was the Super Bowl with the Panthers, and they lost to, I believe, the Broncos. So he played in one, but never won one. So
there's two lists, unofficial and official. Sacks weren't officially a statistic until 1982, but Pro Football Reference, that's a hard thing to say. Pro Football Reference has both unofficial going back to 1960 and the official list, which started in 1982. So Jared Allen is tied for third all time with Mark Gastineau and Justin Houston with 22. Tied for first, you have Michael Strahan and TJ Watt.
Okay.
With 22 and a half.
TJ Watt should... Oh, that's single season. Okay.
Single season sack numbers. Yep. So, yeah. Anyways, Chris Dolman, former Viking, 1989 on this list as well, tied for sixth with 21 sacks. Are there any other Vikings on this list, just out of curiosity?
Potentially.
Keith Millard.
Oh, Keith Millard. Yeah, he's like a 90s.
89. Keith Millard and
Chris Dolman, they both had, there was one year, maybe it was 89. Yeah, both.
That was a crazy year for Vikings.
And then after that, you're probably looking at the like Alan Page and
and those might
Jim
not have
Marshall.
even, those weren't even probably, they're on the unofficial list, I bet, because they were, pre-1982. Anyways, we could go on a tangent just on that.
For sure.
So much fun.
All right, I want your thoughts here. Let's go. What do you think about Matt Asiata?
Fun name to say.
I might be saying that wrong too.
No, I think you're saying it right. Was he the best? Was he the leading rusher in a season?
2014, he was the team's leading rusher, but it was probably something like
not great.
570 yards.
Okay.
That was also the lost year for Adrian Peterson when he ended up being basically suspended the whole year.
But that was a Jennings year. That was Teddy's rookie year. Was that Everson Griffin's rookie year too?
No, Griffin.
Or was he a few years into his career at that point?
When did Griffin? His rookie year was 2010. But yeah, Matt Asiata, I think what I'll always remember is that game where he had something like 30 rushes for 50 yards and 3 touchdowns. I'm pretty sure.
Do you remember what season that was?
That might have been that 2014 season. It was a crazy stat like that. And it was just funny that it seemed like he was always good for a multiple touchdowns. He never scored just one touchdown. Felt like he was always good for multiple touchdowns or none.
Well, he was that goal line guy. Like, he was bigger. He's listed as a fullback on this Pro Football Reference website, even though I think he was less of a traditional fullback and more of kind of a utility back. But he was always put in those goal line to go situations and usually muscled his way into the end zone.
Yeah. Okay, I found the stat. So at least at the time of the article I found, he is the first player in NFL history to reach 9 career rushing touchdowns on the strength of 3 separate 3-touchdown performances. So all 9 of his touchdowns came via 3 games, and each of those games he had 3 touchdowns, which is kind of crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, he was a fun one.
He was fun. He was all tatted up, right?
Yeah, and, like Samoan.
Samoan. Yeah. Super cool. And I don't know. I think he only ever played for the Vikings, didn't he? Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, he only ever, at least
in the regular season, at least,
according to Pro Football Reference, started in 2012 and finished in 2016.
Okay.
Not a flashy guy. Not one that's like, oh, Adrian Peterson, Robert Smith, right? But he's a memorable name. Like, Vikings fans from that era will be like, oh yeah, I remember Matt Asiata. All right. Should we each do one more?
Sure, yeah, we'll go for it.
All right, one more name here. We talked about this guy, I think, before we started recording, but Brad Johnson.
Brad Johnson, yeah.
Brad Johnson. He started his career with the Vikings. Then he left. He actually won a Super Bowl. And then he came back. And he didn't win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, he was with the Vikings from 94 through 98, which is crazy. He was on the 98 team.
He was a backup, yeah. Randall Cunningham.
And then he was with Washington for a couple years, Tampa Bay for 4 or so years. That's where he won a Super Bowl. And then came back in 2005 and 2006 to the Vikings, and then finished off with a couple years in Dallas. Brad Johnson, one thing I'll never forget about him is I think it was 2006, he helped the team to, among other things, at least one 8-game win streak during that. It's either 2005 or 2006.
It's got to be 2005 because they only won 6 games in 2006.
Okay. But that was he was fun to watch. His son has bounced around college football quite a bit, and one of our most viewed TikToks is my injury video of Brad Johnson's son breaking his leg against the Golden Gophers early in the 24 season.
Ouch.
Which you laugh. You're a sicko for laughing at that.
Hey, you posted it, not me.
I did, but I wasn't laughing.
Anyways,
I probably laughed, actually.
Brad Johnson, I think he was a really good Viking. It was him and Warren Moon that were the quarterbacks when I first started paying attention when I was really young, like kindergarten, and I first started to like learn what football was, and first started to realize that, oh, my parents are kind of crazy about Vikings football, and like, this is what we do when we come home from church on Sundays is we flip on the TV and we watch football all afternoon.
Yeah.
So those were good memories for me. And then, of course, when we were in high school, Brad Johnson came back, and that was kind of like, oh, this guy's kind of old and washed up. But he did have that 8-game win streak in the 2005 season. So I was like, okay, maybe. But anyways, yeah. Brad Johnson.
All right, my last one, I'm kind of mulling between 2, but I think I'll take the nicer one. CJ Ham. What are your thoughts on CJ Ham?
I love that guy. I would buy that guy a beer right now.
I don't know if he drinks, but...
Well, I would buy that guy whatever he wanted to drink wherever we went. That guy, that's just, he's a quality guy.
Yeah.
I think inside and out, I think football player or not, I think he's just a great guy. I think he's been the Vikings Man of the Year candidate.
At least a couple of times.
At least a few times, which says something about him. Mm-hmm. He's actually kind of like 2 or 3 degrees away from me. Like, I know people that know him.
I think we've talked about this before. We both have, if we really wanted to fight super hard for it, we both have avenues that we might be able to get in contact with him. Yeah. Mine would be I have one route that would quickly fall apart if it fell through. But
well, all of that to say, I think really highly of CJ Ham. Mm-hmm. I think he plays a position that's kind of a lost art in modern football today. Not many teams carry a fullback anymore. And I think he's feeling, especially now in a very West Coast heavy offense, a very Sean McVay offense like Kevin O'Connell runs. He's feeling the effects of underutilized fullbacks. Yeah. And he's been relegated to special teams pretty heavily since KOC came around. I think Zimmer used him a little more. But I don't know. Yeah. CJ Ham, I hope the guy retires a Viking, and I hope they treat him right, and I hope he continues to be involved in the franchise long after he's done playing. Yeah, that's my hope. He
definitely seems like one of those guys that he deserves every good thing that happens to him. And it's not like there's been, multiple stories where he's like broken into burning houses and saved entire families or done anything crazy. I just think he's a solid, upstanding dude. You hear about him every once in a while and him being charitable. You see social media posts of like him and his family and how they're just good people. It would be shocking to hear like that they ever did anything, unsettling. Like they just seem like the Hams seem like good people. CJ has never been a stat sheet warrior. I think as far as rushing yards goes, and yes, he's a fullback. They don't do a lot of on the feet, stat sheet things, but he's had his most rushing yards ever in a season was 34. His most receiving yards ever in a season was 26. He scored a few touchdowns, a couple receiving and 4 rushing. At one point he had like a 5-year stretch between scoring a rushing touchdown or any touchdown, I guess. But it definitely seems like the Minnesota Vikings are a better team with him on there. As far as fullbacks goes, he seems like one of the better ones in the league. He's made a couple Pro Bowls, at least one, if not more than that. And I think he's still on the roster. Am I right?
I mean, I think as far as we know right now, as of the recording of this episode, I think he is an active Viking. I don't think I'm pretty sure his contract isn't up until next year or the year after. I could be wrong, but no, but CJ Ham, yeah, he is a modern Viking through and through. And again, like I said, I hope he finishes his career with the Vikings, and then I hope he's one of those guys that just sticks around, that just he, for the love of the team, for the love of the city, for the love of the franchise, just sticks it out. Did you find anything on his contract?
He is on his contract runs through 2025, so he'll be with the team, or has a contract with the team through this next season.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought.
And as far as spot rack goes, the Vikings don't seem to gain a lot if they were to cut him, like in training camp or anything. So it seems like unless he just totally crashes out, or if the Vikings sign a fullback in undrafted free agency or anything, seems like he's got a good route to still be on the team in 2025.
All right, so I think maybe a way to wrap this up. So we've talked a lot about those lost seasons, the seasons where they should have been great and they weren't, or the obvious heartbreaker seasons where they, were in the NFC Championship game. They got so close and they just couldn't finish it out. But the Vikings have been to 4 Super Bowls, and we talked again before we started recording about how dominant they were in the late 60s and the 70s. We weren't alive then. We did not come to aliveness until
why'd you say it like
I don't
that?
know.
That sounds so weird.
Just trying to be creative.
We weren't born until the early 90s.
We were not alive yet. I'm just going to try to find really awkward ways to say that.
We did not live until
we had not emerged from our mother's womb.
Don't.
Anyways, if you could go back in time and relive one of those old seasons, you have to pick one. Which one would you pick? And why?
I don't know, man. I don't think I would. I think I'd relive like 2009 or something instead of one of those older ones. Yeah, I mean, it would have been cool to see Fran Tarkenton play. But we kind of can. I'm sure through the internet we'd be able to see most, if not all, of the games of any one of those seasons. It would be cool to experience like the Met, in its glory. It would be cool to see Fran Tarkenton and the likes of him play at the same time. That'd be interesting to see. But because none of those seasons ended with a Super Bowl victory, I don't know if it would even be worth it. If one of those were a Super Bowl victory, then I'd definitely say that one. That'd be too easy. Excuse me. But yeah, I don't know. I'd probably, if given the choice to go back and relive any season, I'd probably say like 2009 or something. Or maybe 98, just to fully indoctrinate myself into the pain of Vikings fanhood.
You want to relive those terrible moments? Because I don't even know that losing the Super Bowl in 69, 73, 74, or 76 comes even close to the heartbreak of 15-1 in 98 or the brutal massacre of Bounty Gate in 09.
I don't know. I think maybe going back to, what was it, 69 when they eventually lost to, was it the Chiefs?
69 was Super Bowl 4, and I think they lost to the Chiefs.
So that was still early enough into right before the merger that I think they were considered NFL champions heading into that game. And
the Chiefs were the AFL champions, and then they met in the Super Bowl to determine the world champion.
Yeah, and I think that Super Bowl was the first one
that they called it the Super Bowl.
Marketed as the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And the 3 before that was just like a championship. Like
an AFL, NFL champion.
Yeah. So maybe 69 if I could go back, because then I'd still be like, well, at least they're the NFL champions. I don't know. There's at least something to hang your hat on.
You have a really good way of, anytime I ask these questions, you just dodge your way out of them, but you eventually answer them usually. I appreciate that.
I did. So 69 if I had to answer. What about you? Which one would you go back to?
I think I'd go back a little more recently. I think I'd pick probably like 73, 74, or 76. All of those were Super Bowl losing seasons, of course. But
73 was the year after the Dolphins went perfect, and then the next year they won it again against the Vikings. So.
But those would have been that would have been Fran Tarkenton, Chuck Foreman, Ron Yeary, Carl Eller, Alan Page would have still been around. I mean, all of those big names from Vikings lore would have been there. And of course, Bud Grant was the coach for all of those teams. The 69 season was Joe Kapp. He was the quarterback. Fran Tarkenton hadn't been drafted yet.
No, that was during the gap. Sorry, I hate being this guy. I recognize that I'm this guy, but I hate being it.
You are this gap.
69. That was.
That was Fran when he was with the Giants, wasn't he?
Yeah, he'd been traded to New York. So, because Tarkenton, he was the second starting quarterback for the Vikings, and that was the week after, the second game the Vikings ever played. So
you're right. I was mistaken. Yeah. But Tarkenton wasn't playing in the 69 Correct. Super Bowl, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. And nothing against Joe Cap, but
he's not Fran Tarkenton.
He's not Fran Tarkenton. So I would have picked those later 70s, early 70s years when they lost those Super Bowls. But man, I'm just looking at this. 68. First in the division, lost the divisional round. 69, first in the division, lost the Super Bowl. 70, first in the division, lost in the divisional round. 71, first in the division, lost in the divisional round. 72, not a great season. They finished third. It was a down year. 73, first in the division, lost the Super Bowl. 74, first in the division, lost the Super Bowl. 75, first in the division, lost the divisional round. 76, first in the division, lost the Super Bowl. 77, first in the division, lost the conference championship game. 78, first in the division, lost the championship game. Had another down year in 79, and then 1980, they were first in the division and lost in the divisional round. It's no wonder that my parents, who grew up in that era, were so crazy about Vikings football when I was a kid, and they finally had like a head coach in Denny Green who was worth watching again.
Yeah, the Vikings historically, they are the greatest team overall to not win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's
they came so close so many times, and close isn't there, but it's crazy that you can. That's why you look at some of these historical stats like overall win percentage and most divisions won, like division championships and like playoff appearances, and the Vikings are right up there with the Patriots and the Steelers and the dominant Cowboys and everything like that. It's just them and the Bills are some of the greatest franchises that have never won, which is heartbreaking.
Keep talking, I'm counting.
And it really is. I think the Bills are catching up to the Vikings with their recent years, because for a lot of years they had some dominant 90s years and never won it. But then the Bills for most of our lifetime have been just horrible until 5-ish, 6-ish years ago. But still, the current Bills are like the 70s Vikings, where they're right up there, but they can't do it.
32 seasons the Vikings have made the playoffs in franchise history, which that's saying something. Like, that's a good percentage of...
That's almost half your seasons, if not half the seasons.
I don't think it's quite half, because they started in, 61?
Yeah.
So, and 61 was maybe the most forgettable season in Vikings history. So was 62. They weren't very good to start.
Well, no
expansion franchise is. But, so 61 till now is what? What's the math on that? 80? Not 80 years.
64.
64 years? Mm-hmm. It's a good thing you're good at math. And I teach English.
Yeah, so half the years, half the seasons the Vikings have made the playoffs.
So you can almost guarantee that 1 out of every 2 years, the Vikings will make the playoffs.
And after all that, they've never given us a T-shirt game. We've never gotten to buy the DVD of the.
I had
Super
a T-shirt
Bowl
at NFC North Champs. I had that T-shirt when I was a kid.
That's like the playoff version of tying. Actually, I at one point won a Twitter contest from the Vikings Twitter account. It was like one of those like, hey, retweet this and you could win a hat. And this was a handful of years ago, right after the Vikings had won a division, and then obviously didn't go on to win the Super Bowl. And I retweeted it and I won it. So I have a very generic NFC North Division champs, and I forget the year, but that is the hat I wear every time I mow the lawn. For all those very interested listeners out there.
Well, if we ever see you mow the lawn, we'll know where you got that hat.
Yeah.
Any last little bit of like just Viking stuff you got to get off your chest.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about a lot, but anything you need to get off your chest here before we wrap this up?
So I will say this whole episode has kind of been tongue-in-cheek, negative. This team loves to hate us. So here's all the heartbreaking things and all the players that never got one with the Vikings. But I will say, I still love being a Vikings fan. I really feel good about the current state of the team. I feel like for our whole lives, the Vikings have always had a positive aura around them. Since US Bank Stadium opened, it's one of the best stadiums in all of sports, if not the best, but definitely up there. In recent years, they keep winning awards of the players voted the Vikings as they've got the best cafeteria and the best coaching staff, and it's the best, one of the best atmospheres for players to work in as players in the whole league. So this team and Coach O'Connell definitely seems it feels like he's gonna do something. If the Vikings have ever had a coach that's gonna win a Super Bowl at some point, he seems like the guy that can do it. So after looking at all this heartbreak and really having no real tangible, they've never won a championship, I still feel good about this team. And I still feel good that I'm entering, bringing my kids into this Vikings fanhood journey. And at some point, I truly think all of us will be celebrating a championship. And it'll be so awesome. And it will make all of these heartbreaks so worth it.
Is that going to be this year?
I hope so. They're probably going to win 2 games this year. After all of this, you just never know, and it sucks. And every playoff loss is there's another year of my life gone, and then you have to remind yourself they don't even know who I am. This is just entertainment. It's just the best reality TV show ever, and it still sucks to see a playoff loss, but they're gonna do it. I think they're gonna do it sometime.
I'm definitely with you on the optimism, and I think my optimism feeds off of KOC's optimism and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's optimism. I think both of them have these really positive vibes about them. We've seen KOC just has a way with the players in the locker room. He has this wonderful locker room presence that just even in a loss, he knows how to keep things positive. Now, truth be told, we saw in the receiver documentary series, he can get on them. He'll hold them accountable, and he will express his emotions negatively when necessary. But KOC definitely keeps it positive most of the time. He knows that that's the key to keeping players motivated to go out and play at their best. And I think having Kwesi, this GM that just has a positive demeanor also, there's a lot of optimism around this franchise right now, and it's exciting, and hopefully that optimism leads to greener grass for this franchise.
Slight tangent before we close it out. Excuse me. There's a content creator, and I forget his exact name, but it's something like Brad Breaks Bad News or something, like Mike Breaks Bad News or something. People will send him, some money to contact someone they know and break bad news. And usually it's this dude that you're friends with, he actually kind of hates you. Sorry. And he just they pay him to break bad news to other people, or hey, I'm breaking up with you, stuff like that. I feel like if I ever get life-altering bad news, I'd want it to come from Kevin O'Connell, because he would just it feels like he'd feel it with me, and he'd just break it down and be like, it was this, and this, and I'm really sorry, man, but this is the bad news, and it would almost make it feel not as bad. But you said something he articulates things so well, and he's so passionate about it. And when he wins a Super Bowl with our favorite Vikings team, it's going to be that much sweeter, because just like Paul Allen, they feel it, they want it. It's not just a job, it's their life. It's awesome
for sure. No, that's a good comparison. I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, I don't know the
account,
dude's name, but it's kind of funny to watch. Like, hey, Josh paid me $10. He wants to break this news to you, and the people are always like, what? Like, what do you mean he crashed my car? What? Like, stuff like.
What a way to make a living. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
All right. Well, what do you think of this beer?
This beer, phenomenal. After having a few, it still holds up to, like, you could throw a ton of these back in a day, catch a nice low-level buzz, great tasting, refreshing beer, and you're gonna wake up the next morning feeling pretty decent.
Yeah, I agree.
That's pretty solid. That's a pretty solid take.
Yeah, and I would add it would go well with some Mexican food.
Yeah, so you should bring some of this to Mexico when you book with Big Top Ventures.
You think they'll let me fly with this?
I think I don't know the rules. Don't listen to me, listeners, on the rules of flying internationally with liquids. I think you can. I think
duty free. Do you think?
Do you even know what that means? I don't know what that means.
Not really. I have flown internationally and I've seen the duty free stores. That's about all I know.
Yeah.
But anyways, agreed. Great beer. I'll definitely find this again.
Yeah.
At some point. So where can people find us if they want to listen to more of our episodes?
Yeah, we're podcast wise, we're everywhere you can find podcasts. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Audible, I think, has podcasts. We're everywhere. You can see our beautiful faces on YouTube and Spotify. We post the video files to that, as well as TikTok, Twitter. We post up some of the video clips. Facebook, we post up some of the video clips on top of just regular social media posts. And our website, theskolhop.com. And of course, our email address. Send us an email and we'll send you a sticker. Our email address is theskolhop@gmail.com.
I just had to find the stickers. They're still here.
There you go.
We have lots of them. So,
did I miss anything there?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, this was a great episode. I'm glad we were able to sit on this Davenport of love here and let out our thoughts and feelings and really end on a good note.
This is a safe space.
This is a safe space. The Skol Hop is a safe space. I felt like that was going to be more, rhythmic, but I guess not.
That's right.
All right, man. Well, this was a lot of fun. Great episode. Great beer.
Skol.
Skol. Yeah, see, what are you doing there?
I don't know. That was just a poor effort.
Why am I sinking my shoulder?
Just need to fix this muscle right here. If we get really bored, we can just do a segment on that. Yeah. Remember all those great Sports Center commercials?
I think we have done that. We've done like a half a segment on that. I think so.
I don't know that it was ever a segment. I think it was just in the bloopers.
Was it?
Yeah.
I know we have talked about it.
Yeah.
And then we watched it back.
I think I referenced the one where Derek Jeter is trying to figure out who was using his razor, and it was very obviously the green mascot. And he's walking around the locker room like, "Did you use my razor? Did you use my razor?" All right, so what we're saying is nobody here used my razor. And then the green mascot walks by and you can see where he shaved. He's just proud of himself. That's a good one. Or there's the one where Big Papi, what's his name?
He puts on the
Yankees hat, and the Red Sox mascot walks by. Wally, no, it's not what it looks like. Or there's the one where whatever his name, the soccer player kicks the copy machine and it spits out a yellow card. And then he kicks it again and it spits out a red card. That's a good one.
Yeah.
There's some good football player ones too.
Mm-hmm.
Steve
Wasn't
Smith.
Adrian Peterson in one?
Adrian Smith was in one. Yeah, he was talking about his nickname. He was talking to Scott Van Pelt about his nickname. He's like, yeah, my dad just called me all day because I just had all this energy and I just kept going all day and it just stuck. And then he looks at Scott Van Pelt and he goes, what about you? Do you have a nickname around here? And he's like, no, I don't have a nickname. And then they're walking by some people and someone goes, oh, hey, bedwetter. That's a good one.
Isn't there one with the New Jersey Devil? He's like in an elevator or something.
Going down or going up? That's a good one too. Or there's one with Alex Ovechkin, and they're like joking with
he's
him,
like a Russian spy.
Yeah, they're like, "You're probably just a Russian spy." That's funny. And then they all leave, and then he's like, "All right, guys, come down." And they're like coming down and stealing stuff. That's a funny one too.
We're gonna have to watch those before I leave tonight.
There's some like good compilation videos out there on YouTube.
Oh, you remember the like fantasy football ones? Well, there's one that's like the dude is like at a beach with his girlfriend or whatever, and Adrian Peterson is in the chair next to him, and he's like, it's like the mobile app for fantasy football. It's like, oh, you can draft anywhere, and he looks over at his girlfriend who's like pissed that he's on fantasy football, but it's actually Adrian Peterson. He's like, oh, you're so silly, Adrian Peterson.
That's funny. I don't know if I remember that one.
It's worth looking up. Oh, yeah.
You're picturing me as Adrian Peterson again, aren't you?
You silly Adrian Peterson.
I remember that one. Don't be silly, Adrian Peterson.
So I had it all wrong, but
You weren't entirely wrong.
I had even the punchline wrong. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
The LaDainian Tomlinson in the mailroom. That's a good one. We'll watch it.
Yeah.
We got work to do first. It's queued up though. It's in the queue, ready to go. Oh, the TV brightened up again. That's nice.
It's weird how it does that.
I don't get worried about it anymore. It used to kind of freak me out a little
Like,
bit.
oh, it's the recording.
Crap.
I think it's just a TV thing.
Yeah. It's all good. All right, we've hit our 20-minute quota.
Yeah,
we
did.
can start now.
Sweet. I'm ready.